Happy New Year, everyone. We are in 2026 and we are coming up on the Lunar New Year in February. So, as we always like to do, we wanted to check in with our local Feng Shui expert here, Marlina Loss. She's a local Feng Shui expert and metaphysics teacher here in Vancouver. And we're going to be talking about what to expect this year for the fire horse. So, Marlina, why don't we start off with a brief introduction about yourself and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everyone to
thanks,
know?
Adina. Yeah, because a lot of people might not expect to see a white woman talking about feng shui and Chinese astrology, and it certainly wasn't my career path as a child. But I'm someone who's always been really interested in energy and in destiny, and actually had the privilege. I worked with schizophrenics, actually, with drug and alcohol problems for many years, so I have a huge psychology background, and I've just always been curious as to what creates our lives and was fortunate enough to travel all around the world. I've studied with 8 different masters, and so my hobby became my job. And so I actually got given the title of master in China in 2006. So I've been doing this a long time, and it's my full, as you know, it's my full-time job, and I'm privileged to teach and consult both in feng shui and in Chinese astrology because in order to be called a feng shui master, you have to have expertise not just in feng shui, you have to have expertise in Chinese astrology, the I Ching, different methods, because they all integrate as to creating energy, like what's the future, so to speak. And it's not so much that I'm doing predictions as they're hard fast, but history is cyclical. History does work in patterns, and people respond to that energy just like they do to the weather. And so I always like to say it's kind of like, do you need an umbrella? Well, I'm going to tell you what kind of umbrella you're going to need this year, you know?
I love that. And that's why, you've been you've been a consultant for us, a good friend, and you've been a huge guiding light for us in the last few years too, of, kind of giving us the insights of what to watch out for, what opportunities to take advantage of, and both for us and our clients. So this will be exciting because this is a big year, isn't it?
It's a huge year
Yeah.
um, because the fire horse is the peak of yang energy, right? So we are at the peak of yang energy. And if you think about fire, fire illuminates darkness. So both on a collective and on a personal level, we're already seeing it. But not only is it the fire horse year, we are in another cycle that's kind of underneath and behind that. That's a 20-year cycle that started in 24, which is the period 9, which is also a cycle of fire. So we're in sort of double cycles of fire, and I could go into more details. But what's happening is, what happened if we look at 180 years ago, which was a similar time to this, that was the time between the first and second industrial revolution. Electricity was discovered, motorized engines were, mass produced. That created that changed the world as we know it, the Industrial Revolution. While with the technology that we have now, we're in another one of those types of phases. And we have to be really careful, I guess, in a way that it's not just the rich getting richer who have access to the resources of what technology brings and the poor don't. And so behind the scenes, there's also a big spiritual thing happening, which is kind of like, wake up, folks, we got to learn to get along with each other, and because the world won't survive if we don't.
Mhm.
So climate change is on the rise and will continue. Like we've got to react, Um, expect more volcano and eruptions already happening. The Ring of Fire is very active right now. Expect more coldness, more hot, more heat and all those types of things, fire and all that stuff, more melting ice and stuff. And that's not to bring fear into people because the world, is cyclical. The question to ask ourselves is, what is this to teach us? How can I learn
Mhm.
from this? Right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And how
that's a
long do you
very
think? It sounds like we're in a very intense period and a period of big change and potential growth and transition. How long does this period last for? Like, is it a 1 year thing? It's a,
well, the fire horse and next year the fire goat are called
yeah.
the sun and the moon.
Okay.
And in some ways, it's like the portal of heaven is raining stardust on us all to wake up. And so
Mhm.
it's the peak of it is this year, but it's going to continue into next year. And then the fruits of what we've actually done will start to show up. So it's not like we have, it's like, oh, relax, you got lots of time. No, it's like we need to make changes now, and people know it. And yet, so what's happening is if you're on the path of making changes in your life, you're probably okay. But those who aren't are seeing health issues, work. If you're not happy with what you're doing, it's going to be a tough year. And in some things, what I'm saying is there's going to be kind of two people walking on the planet right now. Those that kind of know, buckle up, we've got work to do, and those that are in huge resistance and fighting and fear based.
And I think we've seen that in the last few years, even like I see it
Oh,
in our industry. Kind of see it everywhere. People are either clamping down and trying to resist the change, and other people are running with it, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's and with that, so what is there's I know in past years you've predicted certain or not predicted, but there was insights about certain industries that will do well versus certain industries that would be challenged. Sounds like technology is an industry that's favored right now because that's
Yeah,
the
but it's
transition.
also okay. So one of the things behind which industries are favored,
Yeah.
anybody who's too greedy is in trouble.
Mm,
So
okay.
even though I say technology is favored, it's kind of nuts as to some of
Hmm.
the ways that things are being valued, where there is, and that type of stuff. And so the I Ching, what I love about Chinese wisdom, or the original historical Chinese wisdom, is it was guidance. And the guidance says the things that bring people down is greed, laziness, and vanity. Well, isn't that kind of curious? Because what's happening booming in the beauty industry, right, too, is
Hmm.
I'm not I'm for women particularly, but even men, I'm not beautiful unless I have fillers and, puffed up lips and all these different types of things, which maybe, I mean, I wear lipstick too and some makeup, I get it. But if we're doing it because we're not worthy, that's a
Mm,
problem, right? Because then we're
mm,
always trying to better other people. And, those are the types of things I think we'll wake up to. But initially, no. So the beauty industry will do well, the tech industry will do well. Everybody should become familiar with tech. If you want to
mhm,
do well in your business, it's crucial. It's here to stay. It's not going away. I think supply chain problems will occur more this year. So anybody get backups in place, just like we can't order, like look at Canada with the tariffs already, right? Like we're seeing it, that's going to continue. So companies need to be aware and work with that. And maybe it's time we buy more Canada, right? Or
mhm.
learn how,
Yeah.
or get more diverse. Diversity is also, in the sense that we have more trade partners that we create win-win solutions with.
Mhm.
Food scarcity is, of course, also then becomes a problem if there's supply chain problems and things like that. And so we're going to have to learn, maybe we don't need kiwis in the middle of winter when they don't grow here.
Mhm.
We become a world that's used to those types of
Yeah.
things. I don't know. We have to look at that. And companies, one of the biggest things that I see also happening, just companies tackling companies, is culture.
Mhm.
And a lot of companies don't know how to motivate younger people, how to inspire them to work, because they have different work ethics, and we don't quite know how to work with that. We don't know how to handle gender diversity, let alone neurodiversity. And those are
Mhm.
topics that are going to get bigger. So companies that actually have platforms that can handle that will do better, in helping people grow. Um, I think we're in for still somewhat of a recession, so to speak. I mean, I don't want to say
Mhm.
big, big, I don't think it's a big R recession, but we're in a reframing of how
Yeah.
things happen. So people aren't spending money the way,
Mhm.
they're more careful with their money. They're waiting to see what might happen with the stock market and whatnot. And so I think, and in Vancouver, historically, the real estate market has always been pretty
Yeah.
good compared to the ups and downs that back east goes or on the
Yeah.
prairies does and things like that. And you know why that is? It's because the actual feng shui of Vancouver is very good. The mountains and the water and the land, there's a lot of really positive energy here. I think, with there's always some people that make money. I think you're going
Mhm.
to have to hustle a little bit more this year, to sell things perhaps. And if you're someone, and I think relationship building is really important. And I guess one of the other big messages that's happening, let me just look here at my notes. Leadership everywhere is being challenged.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're seeing that.
Truths are being revealed. So
Mhm.
just like Prince Andrew lost his prince, his title, and even more stuff came out recently. More of that's going to happen, and so I think that's a good thing, because don't we want integrity that's honest happening, right? Partnerships are out there, and what's being asked people who will be successful is if you go outside your comfort zone to create joint ventures. So that
Mhm.
could be women cross country, cross your demographics, cross there's so many different ways that we could sort of be outside our comfort zone and looking for partnerships and things like that. I'm seeing that. Um, and wisdom is needed. People need the opportunity is to break old patterns, regroup scattered forces. Like companies are going to have to buckle down. We can't just rely on things, taking off. You're going to have to look at productivity. I think a lot of people don't do proper performance reviews, you know, and fellowship is kind of people who can embrace fellowship. That's the I Ching wisdom for the year. And so which products will not do well? I think frivolous one, like really frivolous ones that aren't necessary, especially because we're looking at plastics. So many things are changing, right?
Yeah.
And so I just sort of think if you're a company that's producing something that helps people, you'll be fine. I mean, my industry's booming,
Yeah.
because
We need
everybody's
you
looking
more
for
than
help.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We need you
And
now.
I'll tell for everybody, managing emotions is
Manage
key.
emotion. Mm-hmm.
Be creative, same letters as reactive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're being asked to choose. And when I look at the image for fire horse, yang fire is what's on top, and inside the horse is yin fire. Yin fire is burning flames.
Mm-hmm.
Well, an image of burning flames is hell. An image
Mm-hmm.
of the sun is ascension, higher consciousness. The lesson for this year is people have to choose. Where do you stand?
Mm-hmm.
And so the monks that are walking from Texas to Washington, D.C., I don't know if you've caught that on the
No, I haven't
internet.
actually. No.
They have 2.5 million followers within
Wow.
2 months, and
Wow.
they're walking for peace. 18
Wow.
guys dressed in robes, freezing in the rain. Thousands of people are out there just
Wow.
praying by the side of the road, and these guys are just walking for peace. We need more of that, where people just bring a positive heart to
Mm-hmm.
to the world, and it's happening. Managing emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like peace. Today's my peaceful day. You
Mm-hmm. So it's
know.
like these things are burning up and we have a choice to either be consumed
Yes.
by it
Yes.
or
Yes.
rise and create
Yeah,
something
yeah.
intentional
And
with
I would
it.
say the biggest thing is when
Yeah.
fear arises, don't react. Pause, be
Mm-hmm.
curious, look at it. There's a real opportunity uh, to bring transformation to the world, if you will. And the
Mm-hmm.
key is we have to bring up the minorities,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it's
Yeah.
through
Interesting.
neurodiversity or gender diversity, or, we have to start figuring out youth
Being
diversity.
inclusive and yeah,
Yeah,
and
we
the
just have to
fellowship
start.
you're talking.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
old boys network and all that stuff
Yeah.
is crumbling.
Yeah.
And who's going to bring the change? Women.
Women.
That's what this is all about. Women need to step into
Mm-hmm.
their power, but with their heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, yeah, on a collective, that's what's happening. I mean, could I say, oh, put money in gold or silver? Nah, I think you should be careful.
It'd be good to get some tips around. Well, it's actually interesting because with real estate, I remember, and I don't know how many years ago, and I don't know if it was on video in one of your classes, but you did say years ago that, oh, real estate in Vancouver is going to be fine until 2023. And I remember this was like pre-2020s, and I remember thinking, I was like, what's going to happen after 2023? I don't, and if you look at it, actually, that is really our transition point, right? 2022 is the peak, and then 2023, 2024 were okay, and last year was a tough year. Is there, yeah, from the real estate industry, is there any kind of general forecasts or any
Yeah.
indicators of where, and can we get some reassurance that Vancouver's good feng shui will help us through this long term?
Well,
Is
yeah, I think for sure it will. But you know what
yeah.
happened in the boom years is a lot of things got built that don't have good feng shui.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that is it's pretty hard to have good feng shui in a 600 square foot place
Mm-hmm.
because it's too small to collect energy to help you grow. And then, or if you had a 600 square foot place, is there a park nearby where the energy can collect? Or is there meeting rooms or transition spaces, if you want to call them that, right? Where the energy, but we've made our hallways narrower, we've made our foyers narrower, we've squeezed the chi. Well, what happens when you squeeze something? There's no room for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that and people are realizing it doesn't feel so good to live in all those different kinds of places. And so I think what we have to do now is reframe their use
Mm-hmm.
And for entry level, for sure, it's great. But
Mm-hmm.
good feng shui, the places now that will sell are the places that actually have good feng shui, which means
Mm-hmm.
bigger setbacks, a little bit more room, a quieter neighborhood, and we've been marketing things like it's all equal. It's in the energy of feng shui, it's not. Even just facing north, and the Chinese know this.
Yeah.
Facing north or south makes a difference. Facing
Yeah.
east or west makes a difference. How busy the traffic is makes a difference. Now, what I suspect will now happen, and I'm reading development, I work with developers. Some developments companies are in trouble. But my experience with them too is they're the ones that were a bit too aggressive in meeting supply without looking at a platform of what are we actually delivering? Is it
Mhm.
something that helps everybody?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I
think
think you're right because that's what this, not to interrupt you here, sir,
yeah,
but that's what this market has exposed, right? Like this last year was the toughest years we've had for sales in decades, but great places are still selling, right? And places in
yeah,
really sought
yeah,
after areas like Kitsilano, it's wild,
yes.
how aggressive buyers are still in that market because there's very limited supply and the stuff that's good, if you have a good outlook, you're by the beach, it's a good layout, people are
Well,
still paying premiums for those.
perfect. And Kits
Yeah,
has great energy,
it does. Yeah.
right? Kits has great energy. And by
Yeah.
time right now, Kits and actually all around the hospital and,
Yeah.
Pleasant,
Mount
I want to say
Pleasant.
I want to say Pleasantville, but Mount Pleasant. Um,
Yeah.
the way, so what happens in feng shui where we get technical? It's not just about trinkets and things. It's like where's the higher ground? Where's the lower ground?
Yeah.
Where's the water? So I actually think we'll see a shift in demand from the North Shore more to this side with, and
Oh,
I'm
you
in
do?
the west side. Yeah, near the hospital and near
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just shifting. Plus, some of it has been overpriced. The
Mm-hmm.
pricing has, there's
It has.
with our immigration policies changing and the educate, not accepting people into universities the way we were before. The market is going to change as a huge reflection to that. And so it'll be interesting to see where it lands.
Yeah.
There are great places out there and still lots of opportunities. And I think for, I mean, I know your chart, you're in for a good year, but you're
Okay.
going to have to work for
I know.
it.
Even
Right?
last year, I don't know if I can't remember if it was a good year or bad last year, but we worked hard and we had a great year. And it's, yeah, to your point is I find in these kind of markets, it's just you have to work harder, right? And you really have
Yes,
to be
yes.
in tune and you have to be strategic. And the shifts you're seeing, I haven't seen so much of like people moving from North Shore to here, but a lot of downtown to, 10 years ago, everyone wanted to be downtown. And now everyone wants to be on this side of the water, right? And Kitts,
Yes, yes.
Fairview, Mount
Yeah.
Pleasant.
I'm not
It's,
so sure that people will move from the North Shore to over here, but I think more development will happen on this
yes,
side because that's just where
I agree.
there's more demand. New immigrants or new energy wants to move there. And that whole, the SkyTrain going up
Oh
Broadway
yeah,
is making a
SkyTrain
difference
and
as well. Yeah,
jobs. There's a lot of
yeah,
energy in terms of like
yeah, yeah.
infrastructure growth and the demand, right?
But
That's
they're
happening.
wrecking it too. The development at the bottom of
Yeah.
Burrard,
Oh yeah. We
right?
won't talk
And
about
it's just,
that. But
well,
yeah,
and
it's a
it
lot of
looks,
density.
it's
Yeah.
the density is changing the energy.
Yeah.
that
So
and that's how it's changing the energy of the place. And we just got voted the worst traffic in North America in
mhm.
Vancouver, right?
And
And
is
we
that how high density, like, so, because you have that in the Jericho lands on the west side, you're going to have a lot of density as well. And the city can't do much about that because that's native land. But with that kind of density, are you saying that high density like that changes the energy mostly because of the traffic and people coming or going, or because of the
yes,
mass of the buildings that go?
both,
What happens?
both,
Yes,
both. It's kind of
right.
like we're putting some mountains where there used to be flat land.
Mm,
Big buildings like that are kind of like a mountain. They're blocking energy, or
right.
and whatnot too. And yeah, definitely the buildings and things that are happening. Plus, there for years a very interesting thing about Vancouver. They had a bylaw that you could not build a building higher than the view. It could not obstruct the view of the mountains.
From the city
And
hall.
that's
Yeah.
and that's no, even in different places.
Yeah.
And so corridors, street
The three
corridors,
corridors.
couldn't even have buildings at the end, and they've changed that.
Yeah.
So we don't, and mountains and water, the relationship between them are key to good energy. And so Vancouver is shifting. It'll be interesting to see kind of
Interesting.
how the productivity of Vancouver lasts in the long run with the higher density. I'm not 100%, I don't know if it's good, honestly.
Because you're
It
saying
is
as
a
we're
great.
putting these buildings up and we're blocking the view of the mountains and the water, it's shifting the energy of the whole area
Yes,
around.
yes, 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 yeah. So it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see. And so in Feng Shui books, they would say they're cutting the neck of the dragon. But there
Hmm.
is something about how being near mountains and water creates a fertile environment. And Vancouver, in general, has less crime than a lot of places. It has, better education and a
Hmm.
lot of things. So yeah, we'll have to sort of see what happens, right? It's an interesting time.
It's a very interesting time. And even, yeah, as I talk to people already, but I think that happens with cities, like the energy of where Vancouver is now has changed relative to 10, 20 years ago, for sure. And to your point, it's going to be very interesting how these buildings actually get built and like what happens with them. This might be a bit controversial because they're not that popular, but multiplexes and single family homes, we're starting to see, I don't, in certain neighborhoods where the city's now allowed 4 to 6 units being built on a
Yeah,
single family.
my neighborhood too.
Yeah, and they're kind of towering over these houses that are next to them. Does that have an impact on feng shui as well? Or is
Yeah,
it,
for sure. Yeah, because every you put a higher building on one side and
yeah,
a lower building, it changes the chi flow. But what I'm
right.
also seeing here is, I'm on the west side. In general, it's sort of like a arts and crafts kind of style here. And
Yeah.
now these new multiplexes are modern and square and angled and things like that. And just even for our brains, when you have modern art with Renaissance art, you're kind of like going, what? And
Mhm.
that's kind of happening too. It just doesn't feel harmonious anymore, you
Mhm.
know? And you
Totally.
want to encourage creativity. I get it.
Yeah.
That's where big setbacks and things like that help, and hopefully we don't get rid of too many gardens and yards and things
Yeah.
like that because those things add life to the
Right.
area. And we're
Right.
taking away the life by putting bigger square footage in all these places because there's not going to be animals. So it's interesting. If you go
Mhm.
to a zoo, well, when I go to a zoo, one of the things I'll ask if I have an opportunity is, are the animals breeding? Because animals
Mhm.
won't breed if the energy's not good.
Oh,
Well,
interesting.
humans are the same. And population growth is going down. Like there's a lot of side
Mhm.
effects happening in all this that people don't see. And
Mhm.
there's something about moving to the country, and having a
Mhm.
yard and grass and, having our kids have access to all that. Or at least, what they do in Hong Kong is there's strategic parks all over the place where people hang out in the parks. Like they may live in a small place, but they go every day to nature. And you'll see Chinese people here in Vancouver doing Tai Chi at Queen Elizabeth Park and in Richmond at Minaru Park. And, because they know that there's chi in that environment and they want to collect
Yeah.
it. Well, you
Mhm.
have more chi, you have more energy, you have more abundance. There's
They
something
look
to
young
it.
and healthy. I always,
Yeah, yeah, right.
one day I want to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah,
What are some quick, I know, we've talked about this many times that there is no quick fixes or quick shortcuts, but as we're talking about these things, what are some common elements when people are looking at real estate that are good signs? So we talked about space, like energy being able to cultivate. You're saying yards are very important. I know from your book, I remember seeing,
uh,
this idea of being on your house. If there's a hill behind you, it's good, but if there's a hill in front
yeah.
of you, or if your house is sloping down, it's not good, right? The backyard. Um, is there kind of
Well,
general things
I
people can
hesitate to say not good because people
Okay.
are going to be going to,
Okay. Not good. Okay.
everything has
Okay.
cause and effect,
Right. Okay.
right? Everything has cause and effect. And so to have higher ground behind you is kind of like the universe has your back. Well,
Hmm.
a lot of people are strong and independent don't need
Hmm.
that. You know what? We all need the universe, but it's kind of a metaphor. You come from a family of money, sort of thing, and people who can
Right.
help you. Um, the front of your house is blocked, it's harder for opportunities to come to you,
Hmm.
right? It's actually literally, it's like, and so it's so funny because so many people want to work online because then they can hide, but really your house still has to be visible because energetically it's your antenna that says, pick me, right?
Right.
So in your house, your front door represents it should be yang and bright and open because it's the opportunities that come into the house. And even people who walk into the house from their garage,
Yeah.
really what they see doing that all the time, and I get it, it's practical, is work because then they go through the laundry room, right? They're in work, it's
Yeah.
like everything is work. It's work, work,
Right.
work, work, work instead of like a balance. And so anyways, the front
So
door,
not
if
just
you,
your front door and your entry, you're saying like when you
yeah,
walk into your house, what do you like a nice bright entryway? Is
yeah, I love what Nate Berkus used to say. It's like your house should greet you, right?
mm,
And so I always say to people, if I was coming over to visit you, what would you want my first impression to be? Right?
hmm
And so many people don't even think about that, right? And so make your entranceway beautiful and as uncluttered and open as possible, because in a way, your intention then is I want more opportunities.
okay.
Your bedroom is about relationships and your health. And so this is just basic feng shui. It's not even with I use formula and compass measurements and all that kind of stuff. But your bedroom should be clutter free, clean. Hopefully, you have a headboard, you're on a solid wall. It's not too bright because you need it to be dark to sleep well. Like these are actually common sense.
Mhm.
And the artwork in your bedroom should represent your future and
Mm,
not like and so I'm not a fan of Jesus pictures in the bedroom, because unless you want to be a nun, yeah, and I'm very spiritual, don't get me wrong, but it's the bedroom should be about your person, and plus Jesus should never see you naked,
okay.
kind of thing, right?
Good
Like
tip.
it's
Okay, take that.
right, but it's sort of, or Buddha,
Yeah,
whoever it
yeah,
is, right?
yeah.
It's because they're spiritual energies that should be respected and put in respectful places. So I think I like pictures of travel or couples or flowers, things like that in the bedroom.
I think you
So
said
the
springtime growth,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
things
and
that are,
just bright so that when you
yeah,
wake up, it's inspiring. And
right.
then I would say the third most important area in your house is where you work, if you
Hmm
work from home, or where you sit most of the time, type thing. And there's formula for that, but
Yeah.
it should be bright and open. And anyways, my book is free on my website now. So
Oh,
they
well,
can go
fantastic.
to the website and download it if they want to get it. So I wrote a book
Okay, cool.
15 years ago called Do You See What I See? And it's a couple hundred pages, lots of pictures, and it gives you really good basic insights as to how feng shui works, real
And
feng shui, classical feng shui.
some references in Vancouver because a lot of it was
Lots of
from
pictures. Yeah.
Vancouver. Yeah. Okay, so we'll link that down below because we did used to give away a few copies and now we're out of them. But yeah, so then and in your office, what you're saying, then it would probably be the opposite of the bedroom. It's something bright, right? Like the energy you want to
Yeah.
eat, right?
So by formula, the best general areas this year in a house or anywhere are east and southeast.
Okay.
So, if I had your floor plan and we had options, then could we
Mhm.
move and sit in that sector, or could we, do that? Because
Yeah.
that's but on formula based. But if you've got a dead tree outside, I don't want you to sit in the east and southeast, right? Like it's kind of like this, it's not just that
Relative.
simple.
Yeah.
And the other is, a lot of people think, where do I put my lucky frog and where do I put the fountain and things
Yeah.
like that? If you don't have good energy in the place to begin with, really what you're activating is bad energy. You're activating
Mhm.
that. And so you have to be careful with that too.
And let's talk about how, for people who haven't done a consult with you, I know we had done it, it's very insightful because I was shocked at, I thought it would be you coming over and looking at the place and going, okay, move this planter. And it wasn't at all, right? It was the overlaying of the compasses and really the location of where we live and the areas. And as you've said, it seems to change every year. So how, if
Well,
someone
there's the
wants,
base chart, like you're born with a
yeah,
birth chart, like you're a snake or horse, but
yeah,
then this year is the year of the horse, which impacts that. Well, houses have the same. And
right.
the energy of the year is also determined by a formula, and then we can overlay that on top of the house. Yeah, it's quite
Are
complex.
you saying the formula of the house is also based on when the house was built? Oh, it
Or
is.
move in, depends.
Oh,
Build or
interesting.
move in. So for
Yeah.
condos, because nobody all moves out and moves in at the same time, it's
Yeah.
the year it was built. But for a house, as people move in and out, it does change the energy of the house to a degree, the people in it, and that. And so, yeah, we use different start dates to create the formula.
Interesting. And then it's also based on your birthday, like you said, right? And
Well,
your birth chart
not the
with
house,
how,
but how you
but your,
connect to the
yes.
house. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because say your house sits on, so horse and rat actually have a position. They're south and north. Well, if you're a horse or a rat, then you're directly connected to the house in
Mhm.
one way or another, right? All the signs are, but that would be a stronger, those two. So the 12 animals all fit sort of on a compass as well as in time, they're in time and space. And actually, I want to say too, the 12 animals are metaphorical terms for energy. They're not
Mm.
they're not
Like
literal.
animals.
Yeah. Yeah, the horse is not a literal horse, but because inside the horse is fire, that's why they called it a horse, because it's moves, it's active, it's vibrant. And so the
Right.
horse was the energy they gave to it to try to help people understand it.
Interesting. You know what? I don't know if we've ever talked about that before, but that totally makes sense, right? That
Yeah. So if
yeah,
you even wrote the character horse and
yeah,
asked, can I borrow a horse, kind of thing, that character for that horse that you're riding is different than the character, the Chinese character for the metaphysical
right.
horse. So,
Interesting.
but as white people, we don't know that. We think, oh, a
No,
horse is a horse.
or a rat is a rat.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not.
So yeah, I guess it comes down to someone getting their reading for their own birth chart so that they know
Yes,
their animal.
yes,
And
yes, yes.
even with that, it gets more complex because I know there's the animal of your year,
Well,
but then you have your day master, your month master,
yeah,
your
there's a
so
year, a month, a day, and an hour, and each
yeah,
pillar represents different things. I mean, if I know nothing, we just use the year animal, to be
yeah.
generic and whatnot. But the other thing wanted to share this. The Chinese teachings originally say there's three factors of destiny, and they called it heaven, earth, and man. And so the belief is our soul incarnates purposely at a certain time to learn lessons and experience karma. But karma is not a punishment, it's more opportunities, I would like to say. And so 33% of who we are is heaven. We can't change the
Mm,
birth chart, but we can learn to work with it, right? Like if you need wood or fire or metal, 33% of your destiny is where you live. And that makes sense too,
mhm,
because a garden needs good soil and good timing and that type of thing. And then 33%, it's not hopeless if you have bad feng shui, is what you do.
mhm,
And you mentioned you had a year where you worked hard and you got ahead. And so what I say is if you have a year like the rat this year is going to experience some change if you have that in your chart. But that
mhm,
doesn't mean it's the end of the earth. It means now you have to make your luck. You have to take charge of it. You have to be in control of the changes. You probably already know, I probably should talk and work with these issues because they're going to
mhm.
be in my face. Now you can wait and the universe will take care of it for you, or you can get ahead of it and do it yourself, right?
Do it yourself. Yeah, and
Yeah.
fast track through it. And with the real, so 33% is where you live. And how much of that is selecting the right place versus what you do with the place you have?
Number
That's
one,
is
selecting
selection.
the
It
right
is.
place.
Okay.
Because you take an identical floor plan
Yeah.
and you put it here. So I'm on the west side. You take my building and you put it at Main and Hastings,
It's a very
it's going to
different
have
vibe.
a complete, the energy of the building will not be
Right.
the same. You put it next to the water, it's not going to be the same. You put it on a mountain, it's not going to be the same. And literally, even just turning the four directions of where the door is, it changes the energy.
Mhm.
So location is more important. And then inside, really, I think inside, we can always do something, but it's like a garden. If the soil is dry and has no nutrients, it doesn't matter how many seeds you plant, they're not going to grow.
Right. So the number one most important thing is for people to be more intentional with what they're choosing.
Yes.
And ideally, yeah.
Well, look here in
Sometimes people
Vancouver.
have good intuition. Sometimes they need a reading, right? And yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reaffirm it. Yeah.
And building your luck is incremental. So the feng
Hmm.
shui masters that I've studied from said they knew that you start at this level, you get the best in that neighborhood, and then that'll take you to the next level, which will move you to the next house, which will move you to the next house. And you take an identical house in Richmond versus the British property, it's probably half the price point,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's location
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's still the same materials,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
Building the house
Could
and
be
all
the
that
same
stuff.
layout and
Could
yeah.
be the same layout and everything exactly, even facing the same direction. Well, that's
Hmm.
because Richmond has no mountains.
Hmm.
And that affects and I'm not saying it's not good feng shui, but it is a different
Different.
level of feng shui. And so part of feng shui is matching people as my job to where they're at. And people
Hmm.
like myself with my training are hired often by individual families in China to be
Yeah.
a permanent consultant with the family.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Like that's historically
Yeah.
what happened,
Yeah.
with this type
Which
of
makes sense because then
information.
they know the family, they know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
charge, and
yeah,
then it's just a matter. Because the
yeah.
one thing I guess is not that quick of a turnaround that you could see a place, call you, and by tomorrow it's a process,
It's
right?
a process.
It's
Yeah,
a process
yeah,
and a
yeah.
relationship that gets built, right?
It is. Yeah,
So
exactly. And it is. And I can see maybe through the chart blind spots and things like that. Like I've had many clients for years and years who are entrepreneurs and business people and things. And it's like they know now that the seeds they do this year will create
yeah,
money in 2 years for them. because how we
Mm-hmm.
look at the chart. Well, that changes how you do your business,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Like when, or if I said, oh, this is a really good year for you, work hard, which I did tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like, but
Which is,
you'll see results, right?
yeah.
The other thing too that's very cool for me in my business right now is I'm traditional Chinese medicine, Feng Shui and astrology was always a part of it originally
Mhm.
before the Cultural Revolution. And I am now teaching TCM doctors and
Oh, cool.
acupuncturists across the world how to use
Um,
Chinese astrology and Feng Shui because they want to add it to their practices, and there hasn't been in-depth teachings available for them,
because they
right? And so that's
separated
a
it.
really
Yeah.
exciting for me to be
Oh,
doing
that's
that.
very
Yeah,
cool. That's
yeah.
very cool. And what are, I guess, yeah, what are you, to cap this off, what are you optimistic of? So we're in a year, right, with change, challenges, there's opportunities for people to grow. The people who are staying stagnant are not going to grow, and it's going to be challenging for them. What keeps you hopeful and positive, and what can we, if it is someone who's going through a challenging year, what are the positive signs on the other side of this that you're looking?
Well, trust.
Okay.
I think Einstein has a saying that I really like. If you believe the world is friendly, it is.
Hmm.
If you believe the world is not friendly, it is.
Right.
So people need to wake up that we're controlling our future. It's
Hmm.
not somebody out there that does this. Thoughts have power, energy has power, love is a power, fear is a power. And so I'm hopeful, and I'm seeing it. More people are taking culpability and responsibility, right, for
Hmm.
that. But
Hmm.
always when major change happens, it's uncomfortable, And so
Hmm.
my question to people or thing with people too is like, we all have an opportunity to level up this year,
Hmm.
but that means getting rid of what doesn't level you up,
Hmm.
right? Like you can't, physics, no two things can occupy the same space at the same time. So no matter what sign you are, and let's just talk really briefly about the signs, too. But yeah, I don't want to give an in-depth. You can go to my Facebook page and get
Yeah.
in more in-depth stuff on all the different animals. But the luckiest animals I could say are rabbit and goat and ox if we just look at the stars. But it's not just that simple. For the goat to have their best luck, they have to manage their reputation and get rid of resentments. Now,
Hmm.
that's, because if you are somebody who's holding a grudge, that'll prevent that luck from happening. Rabbits, they
Hmm.
have to learn to have more courage, So it's like,
Hmm.
oh, yes, there's positive energy there. Now go out and learn the lessons that I think the universe is trying to help us, right, with evolving.
Hmm.
And the ox, it's also, they've all got positive stars. People want to connect with you, get to know you, and to do that. The ones that are maybe a little bit more challenged, oh no, who's also lucky would be the rooster is quite lucky. The rabbit, yeah, I already said, is very lucky. Then the golden ox, I said. The rat has the clash. So
Okay.
ask yourself, what do I need to change to be happy?
Hmm.
Right? And then start doing it because you already know,
Hmm.
like, what do I need to change? Do I need to have better communication with my partner? Do I have to have more integrity or, whatever, those types of things. The monkey and the dragon, they also have pretty good luck, but another one there too is like, ask yourself, what do I need to change?
Hmm.
Right? Yeah, and I don't want to get too much in depth with
And
all
when
the other
people go, what
ones.
do I need? It's, what's holding me back is what you mean, right?
Yes,
By what?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think a lot of times what's holding you back is your laziness could be one,
Hmm.
right? But the opportunity here to let go of bad habits this year is a big one.
It's huge. Okay.
It's a big one. But that takes diligence and commitment, you
Yeah.
know, and maybe even having conversations with people that what kind of world do you want to create? This is the
Hmm.
opportunity this year. I really think it's like if I can change how I react to things, how will that improve my life? And I'm
Hmm.
seeing it with lots of people.
Hmm.
Is it going to be a bit crunchy? Yeah. But let's think out of the box and
Yeah.
let's work with it.
And an underlying theme I'm hearing as you're saying this is that, to make sure you're also surrounding yourself with these other like that idea of fellowship and, if you're wanting to create change, making sure you're around other people who are creating the same change you want to
Oh,
create,
totally.
right? So you're not being dragged down by,
Well, stop watching the
yeah.
news.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, or stop
Get up
watching
and
the
see.
news for 3 hours a day,
Yeah.
that type of a
You need to
thing.
know what's going on, but
The top 5 people we hang out with reflect our life.
yeah.
So I think it'll be a year where people get the opportunity to ask, what do I really want? And am
Hmm.
I embodying that? No matter what sign you are, like there's
Hmm.
opportunities everywhere. I mean, I've been talking about them now for months, and I did a full 6 hour annual class on it. People can buy that on my website. But it's like, to me, really, it's just like if you're not waking up happy in the morning, 50%, or I like what Dr. Phil says, 100% of 50% is your responsibility,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
So what has to change? Right? Do you
Yeah.
need to go exercise? Do you need to get more energy? Do you need to get a better team around you? You
And you need
know,
to change it. Yeah. You can't
yeah, you
expect
need to
the
look. So, what's happening this year is the truth is being revealed.
right.
That's really the big picture here. And thank goodness. But for most people, it's going to be a little bit like, oh, uh, uh,
Crunchy.
yeah,
Like it's,
crunchy. Thank you.
it's okay.
Yeah.
And so if someone wants to go more in depth and learn more about, feng shui and how it works, I know you have classes if they want to do a personal reading. How can they get in touch with you? What are the best ways for them to kind of test the water or just if they wanted to dive in
Well,
and get more
I guess
info?
maybe there's my book, it's free.
Okay.
And then my newsletter is free. So, those two things. I'm on Instagram all the time and Facebook. I mean, I have an assistant who helps with that. I very consciously put out positive messages. It is not about doom and gloom. This is about helping people transform. And then, as you know, I have a membership group called Living with Purpose,
Hmm.
which is $28 a month, so it's cheap. But
Yeah.
I didn't want money to be a barrier. Now, are
Hmm.
consultations with me more expensive? Yes, they are more expensive.
Hmm.
I'm an expert, and so
Hmm.
if you want a consultation with me or reading, it's going to be a few $100s. But you can
Hmm.
see all that through the website, and
Hmm.
but I'm booking now for into March.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
So start now if you want to have a good
Yeah.
year. That's
Yeah.
that one. I
And I
guess you'll be busy
teach,
around it.
if you
Yeah.
want to learn about feng shui and astrology, those programs are 9 weeks,
Right.
like they're full in-depth programs. And then I mentor you afterwards. So,
Mhm.
that's something that interests you. Take a look at that. There's
Take a
lots
look
of
at that.
ways. Yeah.
Lots of opportunity, like you said, for every different level. Because I think I first started taking classes with you in like 2010 when I first got into real estate. Like a few little free ones here and there, and I didn't have the money to invest. And as I've grown, you start seeing the wisdom and the insight into it, right? That helps your life. And I have way more to go. But I really appreciate this. I think this is a great insight into what's coming up in the year ahead. And I'm, yeah, very grateful that you took the time to
No, and it's
share this with us today.
And it's, I
Mhm.
love, well, almost all people, but
Yeah.
people who want to make a difference in the world like
Mhm.
you are people that I really love supporting, right?
Mhm.
Because it's like I know you, but you're not just about selling houses. You're about the relationships with your clients. You're also about supporting your staff, but you're also
Mhm.
about accountability and
Yeah.
leadership and things. It's not just wishy-washy, and so that's
Mhm.
exciting for me. So
And doing our best. That's
yeah.
always been my thing is how can we do the best we can and how do we help
Hmm.
other people do
Hmm.
the best they can?
Yeah,
So this kind of stuff is really important.
it
So
is. Yeah. Thanks.
thank you so much. And
You're
we
welcome.
can't wait to see you again.